For Antiwar.com, I'm Scott Horton. This is Antiwar Radio. First, we're going to go ahead and get to our first guest. Hanging on the line is Cindy Sheehan, nonpartisan peacenik. She writes the blog Cindy Sheehan Soapbox.com. Welcome to the show, Cindy. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Scott. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
I'm doing great, and thank you so much for joining us. It's been, 3 or 4 years since we've spoken, I guess.
It's been a while. I didn't know you were ever trying to get a hold of me. I heard your show yesterday, and you were like, yeah, she's a flake or whatever, but I didn't know you were trying to get a hold of me because, of course, I would have made time to be on your show.
Oh, well, that was back then. Geez, so you heard that, huh? Sorry about that.
Scott, you know. I have listening capabilities also.
Oh, geez. Well, I didn't think anybody was paying attention. Well, anyway.
Well, Scott, you know how much I like you, and I remember you coming to Camp Casey and meeting you there and support your guys' work on Antiwar.com for sure, and so it's nice to be on your show.
Yeah, well, I hope you heard me say nice stuff yesterday, too, right?
You did. I heard you say lots of nice stuff.
All right. Well, and I'm very proud of you. I have to say, the mainstream media is doing their best, I guess, except the very few local papers there, to ignore you. But you have brought your Camp Casey protest to Barack Obama's vacation. Now, why is it that you figure you need to do that? He's not George Bush, after all, Cindy.
Right. Well, we feel like we need to do it because we were right to protest the wars under George Bush when we first started doing it. It wasn't popular, right? You know, it was very unpopular to protest the wars. As a matter of fact, it was treasonous and un-American and all kinds of stuff to be against George Bush's wars. But we were right. We were right to do it then. And the wars are still wrong under Obama, and we're still right to be protesting. And what really is amazing to me is that, well, it's not so amazing, it's predictable that now that we have a Democratic president, the so-called anti-war movement is basically standing down for whatever reason, hope or change or whatever. I refuse to do that, Scott, because, you know, it doesn't matter. You said I'm a nonpartisan peacenik. The killing, the violence, the torture, the crimes, the police state crimes here in America still continue no matter who's president. And if we want to have, any true policy change, we have to keep our integrity of vision, and we have to keep our integrity of purpose, or we're never going to get anything done.
It's so frustrating, isn't it? Because it's, if you remember back, I'm sure you do, the problem with George Bush was all the terrible things that he did. And now it would seem as though the problem that the peace movement had with him is they just didn't like him. That was the accusation, right? That's what they used to say to us. You just don't like Bush. And now it looks like the people leveling that accusation were actually right. Here's the same policies continuing in silence.
Right. Right. It wasn't an anti-war movement. It was an anti-Bush movement. And for 8 years, this movement loved to hate George Bush. So obviously it wasn't the policies. Obviously it wasn't the wars. Obviously it wasn't the devastation that he was causing. It was just George Bush, because obviously these things are not stopping under Obama. As a matter of fact, they're getting worse. And in every theater, things are getting worse. We're expanding, wars for empire. They don't call it the global war on terror anymore. They call it the overseas contingency operation. So that's being expanded, and it's just really, it doesn't show very much integrity to not have thousands of people here on Marthas Vineyard standing with me opposing the wars that we opposed, or theoretically opposed under Bush.
Well, now, do you still have your hardcore, the ladies from Code Pink and that kind of thing? They're still with you, right?
Unfortunately, Code Pink has not made a presence here. And unfortunately, I have emailed my good friends at Code Pink, and I haven't gotten a response from them to even endorse this action. And Code Pink, I don't know if you probably heard, but a lot of people didn't hear because there was another media blackout against my campaign against Nancy Pelosi for Congress in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And Code Pink refused to endorse me, but they endorsed Obama. So, what I think we have in the institutional peace movement or the establishment peace movement, so this is radio, so you can't see me doing my air quotes, the so-called peace movement is that it many times has been co-opted by the Democratic Party for access. They think that going around, marching around the halls of Congress, wearing the soles of your shoes down is somehow going to affect any kind of change. And, that's not realistic, and, that's living in a fantasy world.
Wow, yeah, that's really disappointing to hear. I mean, Code Pink, those were the ladies with the sign Pelosi knew in 2002 about the torture and, with the bloody hands screaming at Condoleezza Rice. These are the hardcore.
Right, well, apparently they're only hardcore when Republicans are in power. So
tell us about SS Camp Casey, and what is it that you're doing with this? You have actions planned for all week long this week, right?
And we do have some hardcore peace activists here representing, I don't know if they're representing themselves, but there's people from IVAW, Gold Star Families for Peace, World Can't Wait, the Green Party, so we do have some organizational support on local levels, which is really heartening to see. Well, the SS Camp Casey is we're going to, Ted Kennedy passed away today, so that's kind of thrown a monkey wrench into our plans. And, I'm not saying that in a selfish way because, I did extend my condolences to the family and the people of Massachusetts for the loss of Ted Kennedy, but it threw a little bit of a monkey wrench into our plans. So tomorrow we're going to set sail. We have a 100-foot sloop that we're going out in the bay to have some real, dedicated working group to hammer out what we're calling the International People's Declaration of Peace. And that's to build a worldwide grassroots movement to oppose wars, to oppose our governments, to work together to resist being used by our government in this, global military corporate empire that's being spread around. So we're very excited about that. We're having a lot of excitement about that. Once we get a rough draft and get it out to the grassroots leaders of peace movements around the world, we're going to take it out around the world to get signatures and to really build a movement where we don't have to go to where the presidents camp out anymore, because we know that they'll do their best to ignore us or they'll do their best to demonize us, but as has happened to me, and we won't be effective. So what we need to do is join together to build a real grassroots movement of resistance, not, trying to get the ruling class elite to change their minds, but for us to have a paradigm shift on the grassroots level.
Well, I really like that. Just cut the state out of it entirely and just get the people around the world signing on to this thing.
All for that.
We got, 6.3 billion people. That could be a lot of paperwork when we deliver that petition finally, huh?
Well, it's not a petition, it's a declaration, because we're going to go beg what I call the robber class for anything. We're going to declare it in our own grassroots people's movement. He said, there's no petition about it. It's just signing on a statement of core principles as human beings, and it declares the intrinsic value of each human being on this planet, not just, white, rich Americans. So every human being on this planet has an intrinsic right to life. And that's what we are going, our basic core value is. And if we can do this person to person across borders, hand to hand, then I think that will build a movement of true change.
Well, you know what? I don't know how difficult this would be, and maybe it would be very difficult, Cindy, but it seems like, especially now that the liberal peace groups, so-called, have all kind of fallen away, and the party in power has switched, that maybe what would be really powerful right now would be if you could find some kind of prominent conservative anti-war person to join in an alliance with and kind of preach more of a, for lack of a better term, a right-wing anti-war view and try to, make the movement a little bit broader.